record. Yay.
Waiting for another two.
Waiting for, I think Annie's coming late today. She told me she was going to be late today. But Mel should be here, so we'll just wait for her before we begin. What's what have you guys been doing? Any news?
I'm not working at the moment because of construction, so I've had so much time on my hands.
Oh yeah, you'd be related to that. Jeez, yeah.
Yes, in the past 2 weeks, I've been out of work.
Wow.
Tuesday, I think, but I don't know.
Does that mean you don't get paid leave, do you?
I get the government payment, so it's okay. Like, I'm getting paid for being at home, I guess.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And then nothing.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, but I'm just bored. Like, just bored.
Well, you've more time to do some more yoga practice.
I've been doing a lot,
Yeah?
meditating more than usual, so.
Oh, good. Excellent. Good to hear. Ava, what do you work at all, Ava?
I know. I think I received Mel's message saying having trouble joining.
Oh, okay.
Hmm.
Thanks. Let me see.
Got the message. She said,
Maybe I'll just send her the Zoom link again, just in case.
yeah, maybe.
Maybe she's trying to do the Saturday Zoom link or something. Oh no, there she is. She's in now.
Okay, good.
Hi guys.
There she is.
Sorry I'm
Hello,
late.
hello.
Hey.
That's all good.
Technical difficulty. On again.
No problem at all. You made it. That's the main thing.
Yes. Am I here? Yes. Ethan.
Yeah, Eva. So Eva, you study, don't you? You're
Yes.
full-time studying, or do you work at all as well?
No, because I told you I used to manage a hotel. That was my own business, but it's been closed down since it's, during lockdowns and stuff, having troubles, difficulties. I think a lot of tourist industries are having huge impact on. Yeah, so I've been closing down for about June, July. And now I started to do a psychology course, I told you. Yeah. So I just finished one assignment last night. So, yeah, it's doing assignments every week. That's it. That's my news. There's no news.
So are you getting some government funding for getting some support
Yeah.
financially?
Not much, but yes.
Yeah.
That's okay. Yeah.
But you're managing to.
Yeah. Of course. Yeah, it's all good. At least I got something to do.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it got so boring at home and staying and doing nothing. Oh, I can't stand it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not much fun just being locked up with nothing to do, isn't it?
Yeah.
And your daughter, Evelyn, yeah?
Evelyn, yeah,
What's she doing today?
watching TV. That's the only thing she can do. Not distracting me. Oh, what can I do? Oh my God. Yeah. So crazy. Otherwise, yeah. So I think the next term 4 is gonna be Zoom again. So gonna be home again.
Yeah, well,
Whatever.
well, who knows what's going to happen for us? But I've redesigned our schedule, so for your kind of requests, so we can keep with the more theory-based stuff, or leaving all the asana till later, so that we can hopefully be in the studio. So I might just share it with you, so you know kind of where we're going, more or less, and I can even send you a copy if you like. Wait a sec, let me just see how to do that. It's this one. I've got all these different schedules. This is for Saturday. This is just Saturday, isn't it? Yeah. Maybe this one. Hope I saved it. Oh dear, you know what? I think I did all this work and then I don't think I saved it. It's reverting back to the old schedule. I've got like a whole bunch of schedules because you guys have got Saturdays, and then I've got the combination of the two. Oh no, here it is, Friday. Yes, no, we did save it. Phew! Okay, it's just both, yeah, not just Saturdays, okay. Okay, let me share this with you so you get an idea of where we're going. By the way, did you guys receive your manuals yet? Yeah? Gemma and Eva, no? Strange, I thought you would have got them by now. Mel, did you get yours in the mail? You did? Okay.
Yes. Amy sent it. I don't know what day she sent it, but yeah. I just got it literally yesterday.
Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe. Okay, so if you got yours yesterday, and you'd sent Amy your address, did you? Personally?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. You might have sent it to her before I sent Eva and Gemma's one.
Yeah.
So that's probably why. Okay.
Yeah.
Hang tight. You'll get it next week, I expect.
Mickey, on that note, is there an expectation that we should fill out the questions in that manual, or I mean, I'm happy to just for my own learning, but I noticed there's like various questions.
Wait a sec. Sorry,
That's okay.
Switch microphones there. Look, good question. Some of those questions are essentially the homework.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, I mean, essentially yes, that is your homework, but it's not always your homework. Sometimes both Amy and I will have our own way of deciding whether we tell you to answer all those questions or whether we do something completely different. So really it's relative, like just kind of,
and I know it's all out of a different order and stuff like that, so
it's not it's not the order in which we're doing the lectures or anything like that. So I mean,
do we submit it at the end, or
the manual? No, No,
Yeah. Okay.
no,
All
the
right.
idea is that the manual is just your own little manual. Yeah, it's your own manual. It's your own
Great.
guide. It's your own little, handbook for
Yeah.
the journey, and
Great.
it's got a lot of information in it. It's pretty in depth. It's a work in progress, and I think I've told you it still needs a lot of editing. There's a lot of spelling mistakes and things and things that aren't quite in the right place. I had a go at giving it a good edit before, but there was no way I could finish it before.
That's all right. I think it's 90% good.
Oh, it's pretty damn good.
Yeah.
And it's look, I mean, it's quite in depth. Like a lot of,
Yeah.
I'll show you some other teacher training manuals, and they don't go to the depth of our manual. So we've got a pretty in-depth manual. So in that sense, also
It's really good.
also be overwhelmed by it. When you
Yeah.
see all that information, think, shit, do I need to know all of that?
I know.
No. Look, it's just
Yeah.
it's just a guide and something
Yeah.
you have forever kind of thing, as a tool. Look, with the questions in there are the kind of idealized questions for the particular topics for our kind of homework. But the idea is that you write them down, you answer it, and you just send that in as your homework. So in whichever form you like. I mean, Gemma's just been handwriting hers and sending me a photo. That's fine. Things that are typed up are great. Ultimately, look, even your homework, the whole purpose really is for you guys to try to embody what you're learning in the lecture. So it's really just an exercise for yourself. We don't correct your homework. I mean, I skim through it all. If I have to read, I mean,
you can't read absolutely everything. Yeah.
The other group, we've got 18 people or something. So if I have to read everyone's homework, here all week doing homework correction.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I thought I'd print out a hard copy of all my homework and put it in the manual, so it's just all together.
That's a great way to do it. You could do that, or else you have your separate little homework booklet. It's kind of like side manual, like an appendix to the manual kind of thing. Something like that I think is good. So I think it's valuable for you guys not to just, you do your homework, hand it in to me and forget it, to actually, print it out or have it in a book. So that's your own little book, resource book that you can then always go back to at any point. So let me share the screen. And okay, so here we are. This is our revised schedule, which could be revised again. You never know. There's nothing's final, nothing's definite. But if you can see there, we had our first lecture was kind of just our introduction. Then we had meditation. Then we had self-inquiry and non-dualism. Then we had chakras. And so then I've changed it from now on. So today we're going to do pranayama. So we're in the green column. The blue column is the Saturday group. And then next week, we're going to do the 8 limbs of yoga. We're going to look at the 8 limbs of yoga. So that's part of Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. So I know, Ava, you've got that book, the Yoga Sutras book. So we will kind of look a little bit into that book there. If you've got the book, it's great. But if you don't, it doesn't matter. We can just read. You can listen to me read. But I'll be sharing other stuff as well. Then the week after, we're looking at the Upanishads. So that's the other book that I also recommended at one point. So same. If you have it, it's great. If you don't, it doesn't matter. We'll just sort of. The Upanishads is a big collection of works. It's quite a few different stories, and I think I might have mentioned that it's like, as far as Vedanta goes, the school of philosophy of non-duality, that's like, it's a whole other course just to explore that and the Bhagavad Gita. It's like, 3 or 4 years full time. So really we're just touching the surface with all of this philosophy. Then the 22nd of October, we'll do the systems of the body. So we'll look at the various systems of the body. So the skeletal system, the respiratory system. We'll look at the endocrine glands and the lymphatic system and all that. And then we look at 29th of October, we look at the vayus, the kundalini and the nadis. So that's kind of some of what we're going to do today is relative to that, because we're going to explore pranayama today is the practice. And this is kind of like the framework from which we practice within, as in, yeah, we'll go into that deeper then. But so what I've moved our physical practice to the 5th of November, because that's in theory when we're supposed to be opening up a little bit as far as restrictions go. So I'm kind of putting it out there that hopefully we can actually go back to the studio. Now, possibly studio classes won't be able to commence then, I'm not sure. But as far as teach training goes, there's a little bit more leeway with the education aspect of it, because it's kind of like, you know, it's education. And so we may be able to go back to the studio to practice then. It'll depend a little bit on how the roadmap unfolds. If you've been keeping an eye on that the last couple of days, we've had some pretty big cases again, case numbers. So who knows if they change it. If they keep it to the roadmap that they've suggested, then I think we should be okay to go back into the studio then. So we'll just have to check in then. But if we can't, we're going to just have to start doing that online, because otherwise, otherwise, you know, what can we do? There's no, we can't keep postponing the asana. We need to start getting into the asana. So hopefully, cross fingers, 5th of November, back in the studio, and then we start with sun salutes. Then we go into standing and balancing poses. Then we've got, we look at karma, yoga. We do yoga charity work. And I put prenatal in here. I'm not sure if that's going to be the case. We'll see about that, but maybe incorporating those into that lecture. Then we've got twisting poses, we've got lateral extensions, we've got inversions, we've got arm balancing, we got methodology of asana, yoga sequencing, personal development, ethics and oaths. And that brings us up to the end of the first half, which for those who are doing the 5 months will be the end for you guys. So for Mel, you will be finishing then. So that weekend there, 21st, 22nd of January is when you finish, because Mel's doing Friday and Saturday. And Gemma and Eva, then we continue on down there all the way until around about the beginning of June. That's when we should finish. But again, don't take anything for gospel. Occasionally we may skip a lecture, or, you know, or whatever, you know, we've got to be a little bit flexible in our approach, but that's kind of the plan. Any questions or anything at all on that? So I'll send you guys a copy of that if you like, so you can get an idea where we're going with things.
Mickey, sorry.
Yeah.
Pending everything, I might be going away for about 3 weeks in Jan. So I guess I anticipate I'll miss that potentially the last 3 weeks, maybe. But I'll be able to join in online if that is the case. Is that going to be okay?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we've got there's already a break there.
Yeah.
I didn't mention that, but So our last lecture for the year would be just before Christmas, 18th of December or 17th of December for us. And then we've got a couple of weeks break over Christmas and
Yeah.
New Year. And so we
Yeah.
come back on the 7th of Jan.
Yep.
When are you planning on going away?
Possibly from about the 1st of Jan till about the 22nd or so. Yeah.
Where are you planning on going?
We're planning on going up north, maybe
Queensland?
Sunshine Coast. Yeah.
Oh,
We'll
nice.
see what happens.
Great.
It's all a bit up in the air.
You book stuff, or you just sort of putting it
We
out?
haven't. We normally go away at that time of year.
Yeah.
And, you know, I guess in the past it hasn't really been an issue, but there's just extra complications this time. Yeah, so just sort of playing it by ear.
Yeah.
Mm,
No problem at all. Well,
yeah.
yeah. If you're away, that's
But
fine.
definitely,
you
yeah,
can
definitely
just
I'll be able to join in
join in
online.
online. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of this course. And
And then I'll be back in time to celebrate with everybody for the end. End of the 5 month.
actually, I probably need to. I've just noticed I'll need to make a little adjustment there. I've got standing and balancing there. I need to keep going back to this because you know, we've had to sort of design the schedule so you've got the, you know, 5 months on the Saturday, the same as the 5 month on the Friday at the end. So then so they can even out, so you can work the whole thing together. I don't know if you know what I'm trying to get to there, but but you know, kind of flipping them, but it's not always the case because you still need to then do. Everyone needs to do some salutes fairly early in the piece as far as the asana goes, because that becomes the foundation, I guess, of a lot of the flow work that we do. Yeah, I'm just noticing that I might have to adjust some of that. But yeah, some of those lectures there are actually quite suitable for online. Methodology is fine for online. Mind and breath is fine for online. Personal development, ethics and oaths is fine for online. Adjusting and assisting is better to be in person. But yeah, we do what we can.
I think I'm going to be away from like around the probably 10th of Jan to like probably like the 21st. So I might have to do like 2 of the sessions online, but yeah.
Cool. Where are you planning on going?
Whit Sundays or like Hamilton Island.
Wow! Yay!
I've never been there, so hopefully we can start talking things.
Yeah, well, I hope so too. Wish you luck with that. Good one. Well, you know, I mean, who knows? I might go away too, and then we're all doing online. Okay. So our lecture today is on pranayama. So often you can see it, the way it's written it looks like pranayama. Not sure if I've mentioned with you guys, but sometimes in the Sanskrit we drop the A's at the end of the word, and that's one of the words that we often drop the A. So instead of calling it pranayama, we call it pranayam. Pranayam. Who can tell me what pranayam is?
My simple, quick answer off the top of my head, breath, life force.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, good. Well, yeah, good.
Breath exercises.
Yeah, good. Yeah, that's a good leeway into it for sure. And sorry, I just saw Melanie, your little comment there. Yes, we're doing pranayama here and we're doing it tomorrow. Yeah, I mean, if you can come to both, it's great. I'm going to try as much as I can to make them slightly different.
Yeah, that's okay, because we have our class tomorrow as well. So
yeah, exactly.
yeah. And
Yeah.
I find I do get something from everyone who attends.
Exactly.
So our little group here and big group tomorrow. It's great hearing everyone's feedback. So
yeah.
Just
out of interest, have you guys, any of you guys, been sort of looking back at the lectures at all? Like the recordings that I send you?
Not the recordings, but my notes. I take notes throughout. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the same. Haven't looked at the recordings, but have got the notes too.
Okay. Well, if you're interested, what I do with the recordings is I put them all on my YouTube channel. I've got all these like playlists, I guess. And so one of the playlists is teacher training. It's a teacher training playlist. And so all the teacher training recordings, so this group, the Saturday group, our previous groups, I put them all up there, just all in the same playlist. So building up quite a collection of lectures there online. I always just send you guys the direct link, but I can send you, if you're interested, you can send you to the link to all the playlists. So if you ever sort of bored and feel like you'd like to, or there's a particular topic that you'd like to understand a bit more or look into a little more, then you're most welcome to have a look at any of the lectures, some of the old lectures, because like
an
saying,
excellent library for us, Mickey, going forward.
Exactly. It's just the library you can always access. And they'll always, like you're saying, Mel, they'll always be slightly different, even though, we base it on the manual or on the lecture theme. But, me as a teacher and Amy as a teacher, I mean, these are just my lectures there, not Amy's ones. But even me as a teacher, I'm always changing things up each time. So nothing's ever the same. It's always evolving, always changing. Okay, so pranayam. Let me just have a quick look in our teacher training manual. I haven't got the new teacher training manual yet. Mel, you've got it. Does it? Have you got it with you? I can't hear you. You're muted.
It's just in the other room. Shall I grab it?
Yeah, go and grab it.
Yeah.
Go and grab it.
Yeah. Just one moment, please, buddy. Okay, I'm just busy just right now, darling. Okay. Yes. So there's a lot here.
Is it well indexed now? That's what I want to know. That was one of the things that I asked them to do for me. Like, is the index table of contents with the pages, and do they go to the right pages? Can you just check that for me?
Yeah, I will. No index at the back. Do you know what, Mickey? There is no page numbers in the table of contents.
Really?
Yeah. So it does need a little bit of attention, yeah.
Oh, I can't believe that. That was the big thing that I asked.
And some of the pages in the manual do not have page numbers. In fact, most. I suppose what I'll do is I'll go through myself and write the page number and then assign a page number. Yeah. I'll go through, write the numbers. Yeah.
But so some of the pages have numbers and some don't. Is that what you said?
Literally 2 of the pages have a number. There's a page 3 and 4. No, the numbering needs massive attention. Yeah.
Oh, geez, I thought Amy got someone to do that. Anyway.
So we ourselves can go through and number the pages and then correspond with the contents, I suppose.
Yeah, if you like. I mean, otherwise
Yeah.
it doesn't really matter. We can always just
Yeah.
work it out on each moment, each time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Look, I'm going to bring up, so if you can find, if you want to follow along in the book, I'm going to share it on the
Yeah.
screen anyway, but if you want to follow along in the book, the pranayama section. So it's, yeah, I can't tell you what page it is. It's, I mean, it's actually, it is page 32 in the Word document. Okay. So let's have a just little read through this little introduction here. What is prana? So obviously pranayama is an expansion of prana, an extension of prana. So prana is everything. It's what gives the formless form. When the breath wanders, the mind is also unsteady. That's from the Hatha Yoga Pradipika. When the breath is made conscious, decay stops and reverses. Pranayama teaches the aspirant to regulate his breathing and thereby control his mind. That's from Mr. Iyengar. The Vedic texts state that all living entities are sustained by the life-giving force called prana. Prana has many depths of meaning, from the breath, the Holy Spirit, the soul, the electricity, to the energy of consciousness. Prana is the basic life force. It is the master form of all energy working on the level of mind, life, and body. The universe is a manifestation of prana, which is the original creative power. That's pretty trippy stuff, isn't it? Definition of prana: primal life force, the subtle energy of air, the master force and guiding intelligence behind all psychophysical processes, responsible for coordination of breath, senses, mind, and consciousness. Prana is the universal life force, also mentioned as vital force. All cosmic energy permeating the universe on all levels. Indologist George Feuerstein explains the Chinese call it qi, the Polynesians call it mana, the American Indians call it orenda, and the ancient Germans call it od. It is an all-pervasive organic energy. In living beings, this universal energy is considered responsible for all bodily functions through 5 types of prana, collectively known as the 5 vayus. Ayurveda and Tibetan medicine all describe prana vayu as the basic vayu from which all the other vayus arise. The key to sound health is keeping the 5 pranas moving properly throughout the body. So the 5 pranas, meaning these 5 vayus, these are the different ways in which prana operates in our own bodies, in our own physical bodies. And as I suggested, that's a subject we'll look at in depth, in greater depth at another time, when we look at the vayus, the kundalini and the nadis. But yeah, look, this is just defining so far really prana, a little bit of pranayama there, but prana is essentially life force. It's the energy of all life. So if we consider consider this idea of the infinite or God, the universal life force. So the yogis see God as the universal life force. So this is where sometimes, you know, it differs in the perspective of what is God. You know, sometimes from a more dualistic perspective, God is seen as a greater being, which you know, in a way that is right according to the yogic principles, but it's more than just a being. So it's certainly God is not, you know, the guy in the robes with the big white beard, fluffy beard, sitting on a cloud. He's he's more like, well, he's not like a he or a she. There's no sex to God, because God is non-dual. God is the non-dual reality, the non-dual force, the non-dual energy. It only becomes male or female once we separate into duality, once we manifest in the dual world. But the idea is, it is the source. God is the source of all energy, of all life force. It's the universal life force energy. So it's the kind of battery that charges and allows for all of life in our universe to be manifest. So prana is essentially the essence of that life force. If you can see, if you think of the battery, you know, like a battery, which you know, even more than a battery, let's think of a nice way to think of it is like when I used to live in Thailand, we didn't have a you know, there was no mains electricity in the house or anywhere in Thailand when I used to live there. Everyone used to have their own generator. So I had a generator outside my house, and the generator had a big cable which went into the house, into like a circuit board, a power board, and then from there all the other cables ran through the house to the lights, to the plugs, so that the house could have electricity and power. So the generator itself was what powered the lights in the house. So in that same kind of analogy, the generator is God. The generator is the universal life force, and the electricity that comes out of the generator that then powers everything up is the prana. So prana is like this electrical force which comes out of the generator, and the generator is God, or the universal life force energy. And so that it's the same energy which moves, which generates all the things. Now within the house itself, you've got the lights, you've got all the different things that are charged by the electrics. You've got your toaster, you've got your TV, you've got your fans, you know, whatever things that are plugged into the electricity become animate. They move because of the electricity itself. You know, without the electricity, they're just nothing. They're just like a globe that doesn't have any light. They're just you know, a toaster that doesn't toast. They're a TV that doesn't play pictures or sound. So it needs the electricity to power it up. And so in that same way, the prana is essentially the electricity. Prana is the electricity that powers up and charges the whole manifest world. So everything in the world, from the animals, the plants, to the minerals, to us humans, we're all charged up, we're all powered up by that electrical force, by the prana. So, you know, most people don't even realize that. They just go along doing their thing, day-to-day activities, and, you know, maybe some sometimes you might ponder, how do I get the energy to do this? Where is the energy coming from that allows me to move? But even some of the energy to do things like that, you think, okay, well, energy to keep the body alive and energy to keep the plants alive and whatnot, but even something on subtler levels, so even on the mind level, so energy to be able to think, for the mind to operate, is also powered and generated by the prana itself. So it's basically everything that has an animate energy is animated by prana. So it's pretty simple in a way, really. Like basically all of life, all living things, and all of life's actions and everything that happens in the universe is all animated, is all generated, is all powered by prana. And we don't see the prana. It's like you don't see electricity. It's the same kind of idea. It's just there, but we kind of know that it's there as energy. And so this is the yogic perspective. I mean, we could go down and look at it from a scientific perspective, and the scientists would say a similar thing, but in scientific terms, just calling it energy. Energy is what charges up all our neurons, our cells in our body. It's the energy. So that's essentially quantum physics is all about understanding how that energy works, how that energy moves all cells within our bodies, within plants, within all of life. So yeah, I think probably only not that long ago did quantum physics sort of get that, which is exciting, because maybe 100 years ago, if we talked about this from the yogic perspective, a lot of people go, oh yeah, but that's just like, you just got to believe that. It's like kind of like religion. Can you just blindly believe it? But no, actually now it's scientifically proven as well. So it's nice. It's nice that science is catching up to some of this knowledge that we've had for thousands of years. Does that kind of make sense to you all? Prana, what prana is? Any questions at all on prana? So then what we move into, what we have now, is then the practice of pranayama. So pranayama, so the word prana means life force. And so let's just read this first. If we look at the definition down there, what does pranayama mean? Pranayama is the conscious awareness of breath, life force that both energizes and relaxes the body. The term is derived from the Sanskrit prana, which means life force, and ayama, which means extension. So the word pranayama itself essentially means that extension of life force. Sometimes you could see it translated as expansion of life force, enhancement of life force. But yeah, essentially that's what pranayama is. So in the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, it says here, breathing is lessened when the mind becomes absorbed, and the mind becomes absorbed when the prana is restrained. Breathing is lessened when the mind becomes absorbed, and the mind becomes absorbed when the prana is restrained. Can anyone try to transliterate that for me? Can anyone tell me what they reckon that kind of, what they're trying to tell us from that saying, from that quote?
Oh, can I say something, Mickey? I think a lot of us live our lives shallow breathing, potentially for decades without even quite realizing it.
Yep.
And I think that inhibits your ability to, well, for a lot of things, it inhibits your ability to be physically, mentally, emotionally well. So it's just quite amazing when you focus on your breathing regularly, the improvements in your well-being. So I think pranayama practice provides that great gateway.
Absolutely, Mel. Thank you very much. Yes. Yeah, look, we know that. We know it's, I mean, everyone knows that. It's not just us as yogis. Everybody knows, the common saying is, when you're stressed out, what do you say to someone? Someone's stressed out, what do? Take a deep breath.
Exactly. But with yoga, we do all that as preventative.
Yeah.
Or we should be.
Yeah, brilliant. Wonderful. Thank you, Mel. Yeah. That quote from the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, breathing is lessened when the mind becomes absorbed, and the mind becomes absorbed when the prana is restrained, is kind of just like talking about, I guess, some of the actions of pranayama, some of what we do, and some of the results. So if our mind is becoming absorbed essentially into what we're doing, so when we're working with pranayama, so back to the meaning of pranayama, extension of life force, but also, like Mel has mentioned, using the breath to do that. So the breath becomes the tool to extend the life force. And so while we breathe all the time, everyone does unconsciously. It's just an unconscious part of our being. When the breath is more conscious, when we actually consciously breathe, and through the conscious breaths we tend to slow the breath down and expand the breath. So through that we expand the lungs, we expand the lung capacity, we bring more oxygen into the body, so that helps to bring more oxygen into the bloodstream, more oxygen into every cell of your body. So just the whole system of the body is revitalized just by deeper breathing, just by deeper conscious breathing. And the practice of pranayama, and we'll learn this a little more next week when we do the 8 limbs of yoga, the practice of pranayama is kind of like one of the steps on these 8 limbs of yoga. And the 8 limbs of yoga are the pathway towards the goal of yoga, which is enlightenment. But whether that's kind of, whether you're fully, say, on that spiritual path, I really want to become enlightened or not, it's also really essentially the pathway towards just living a better life, to living a more effective life, so that you're healthier, you're more vital, you're essentially becoming more sattvic. Sattvic is like the balance of yin and yang. So becoming fully balanced in all that you do and in all that you are. And So, you know, whether we consider that maybe far off goal of self-realization or enlightenment, you know, that may or may not happen in this lifetime, but for sure all of us, we want to live to the best of our ability. We want to be the best version of ourselves that we possibly can in all that we do. So, so the 8 limbs of yoga are essentially the recipe for that, the recipe for more successful living. For more successful living and more successful being. And so pranayama becomes one of those steps. The 4th step, to be precise. And as I said, we'll go into more detail of all those steps next week, but part of those steps is also working into our meditation practice, which we've already explored somewhat. But the idea of the meditation practice is to concentrate, is to focus, and is to ultimately really fine-tune our awareness and ultimately be able to be in that deeper inner awareness, the inner light of awareness, that deeper aspect of who we are. So the idea when it says the mind becomes absorbed is through the practice of both pranayama, but then, you know, sort of interweaving it with our meditation practice. The idea is that we really focus, we fine-tune the mind, so the mind's not being distracted, not, you know, lots of thoughts, lots of emotions all over the place. Now, not to say that thoughts or emotions are bad, that's part of our human experience. It's good to think, and it's good to have emotions, and that's all, you know, a wonderful part of our experience of living in the world. But the idea of this yoga practice is to take a little time out from the outward expression of living in the world, which is interactive, and go inwards. So in that journey inwards, in that practice to go inwards, we breathe deeper, we work on pranayama techniques to help to calm down, to slow down the mind wave patterns. You know, we've looked at the mind waves, how they can get very fast, and those the beta waves, I think. I forget them off the top of my head, but I think the beta, is it the beta waves? There are the fast regular ones, or the alpha? Beta. And the alpha state's what we want to bring ourselves into ultimately, theta and delta. But the pranayama can help to slow down those brainwave patterns, and so then we become more internal in our focus rather than external. So that's the idea of breathing is lessened. So we breathe less in the sense that if we breathe deeper, if we really slow the breath right down, then there's less, let's say if we count breaths per minute, if we just regularly breathe per minute, how many breaths do we breathe in a minute? And then if we're working our pranayama practice, we're breathing less. The mind becomes absorbed. And the mind becomes absorbed when the prana is restrained. So the idea of restraining the prana is, more than restraining, is containing, is to enhance it. So using all these little techniques of pranayama, of mudras and of bandhas, so mudras and bandhas, again, another topic we will discuss in future, which sort of ties in with all of this. Then we start to enhance and boost our prana within our system, so that our prana, our life force, our energy becomes more vital. So from that we then feel a mix of two things. On the dual aspect of that energy, on one side you feel more enlivened, so more energized, more aware, more awake in a way, but on the other side you also feel more relaxed and more at ease and calmer, which is a beautiful thing, like, you know, having those two states of being, which you'd often relate them as different ones, but actually they can work hand in hand to be both energized and vital and strong and full of energy, full of power, but at the same time maintaining a relaxed disposition through it. So being at the same time calm and at ease. And that's essentially what pranayama can do. I've just been doing an online course with just did just by donation. I just put it out there on my social media. For the whole month of September, I did a pranayama course online where we gathered every Monday and every Thursday morning from 7:30 to 8 a.m. So just a half an hour session every Monday and Thursday morning. So 9 sessions altogether. And throughout the course, I taught everyone these pranayama techniques. And so by the end, we learnt a whole bunch of techniques so we can use it as a practice, as a way to drop into our meditation. And everyone absolutely loved it, and everyone found it really useful to help navigate these kind of challenging times that we're living in. A lot of people really struggling mentally with anxiety and stress, and everyone really felt that everyone wants to come back and do more. So it definitely it was a great success. I'm going to do that again in November. If you guys feel like joining in November, you're more than welcome. I'm going to run it again this month, but just as an advanced session for those who did last month. And then in November I'll start afresh again. But we'll explore, of course, some of those techniques today as well, so you can already get a head start in this practice. Hatha Yoga Pradipika 424. Both the mind and the breath are united together like milk and water, and both of them are equal in their activities. Mind begins its activities where there is breath, and the prana begins its activities where there is mind. Look, essentially just to also consider that the mind also is generated through prana, and so the breath work can also affect the mind, and we know that if we're stressed in our minds and we breathe deep, then that can relieve the stress, because all the different aspects of who we are, they're all interrelated. We know that the stress response in the body, there's certain hormones which can be activated. If the sympathetic nervous system's on overdrive, then that activates certain reactory hormones such as cortisone and adrenaline, which then create the stress response physically. That will then create the stress response mentally, emotionally. So it's all kind of interrelated, and sometimes it's the other way around. The mental stress brings on the physical response, and then the breath is also, if we're just breathing shallowly, which we often do when we're sort of overcome by the stress or the anxious responses to things, then that just perpetuates the cycle. So if we consciously can tune in, oh shit, I'm stressed, oh I'm anxious, okay, what to do, how can I resolve this state of being that I'm in? Breathe deeply. Breathing deeply is the immediate antidote to the stress. Okay, let's have a little eeny weeny break, little 5-minute toilet break, water break, stretch, whatnot. Yeah? Come back at 1:10. But wait, before we go, any questions at all? Okay, come make it impossible.
I'm glad you're eating, Mickey. So am I.
Just a couple of nuts. Have it snacking. Snacking.
During our break times, I run around and do a bit of housework. Instead of, I probably should run around, or just not run around and eat.
Just went into the garden and checked out my plants. Been trying to get a veggie patch going. Got a few of them are coming up nicely.
Success, yeah.
Yeah, they're coming up, but I mean something's also munching away on them. Got some
Oh yeah, possums,
some invaders. No, I mean I'd say they're probably just
snails.
Snails. Or,
Yeah.
I need to go out and go out at night time with a torch, I think, and
Yeah.
find the culprits.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm. Mm.
What are you eating there?
I just bought this dip from the market this morning. Some eggplant dip on some yummy bread.
Yum.
Mm.
Well, we'll have lunch soonish, but let's continue. Eva's not back.
She must have got sidetracked with a little one.
Probably.
Mickey, let me know if you want to wait for. Oh, here she is, Eva. Just want to ask you. So as part of probably most yoga classes, there's an element of pranayama, and even if it is sort of the 5 or 10 minutes at the start or the end, just some conscious breathing throughout the class. So is that considered you're incorporating your pranayama in your class then?
Mm-hmm.
Even just with your is it that you are, I can't pronounce it, Ujjayi breathing.
Jai.
Like, Ujjayi breathing, yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
But still beneficial to do a dedicated pranayama.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, well, I guess this is a little discussion to be had, and we'll maybe we can expand on it somewhat next week when we look at the 8 limbs of yoga. But this is, I guess, where we start to analyze. Well, what is yoga, and what should I be doing? What should I be practicing? What should I be teaching, and all the rest. And it's a fairly big topic to explore, really, but. When you look at yoga traditionally, from the 8 limbs of yoga as a sort of map, as a guide map, as a sort of recipe of what are the practices of yoga, the asana, the physical practice, is just one of those 8 limbs. So it's really from a traditional point of view, it's only an eighth, you could say, an eighth of the practice of yoga. Whereas here in the West, we've sort of emphasized that as the practice, and but yeah, that's kind of a mistake in a way. Not that it's a bad thing to do that practice, to do the asana, to do the physical practice. It's a nice practice to do. We're all drawn to that, and that's still, even myself, understanding yoga from the deeper perspective, still most of my classes are asana based. They're based on the asana. But then obviously having a deeper understanding of all the other aspects of the practice is important, so that you're actually really essentially teaching yoga and not just teaching a gym class. So yeah, there's a difference there, of course, of just teaching an exercise class or teaching a yoga class, which is incorporating all those various practices, all those various aspects. But yeah, look at everyone's resonates at a different level, a different frequency, is drawn to different parts of the practice. You know, there are people who purely really just enjoy doing meditation as their practice. And you could look at, for example, you could look at the Hare Krishnas. Do we all know the Hare Krishnas, who they are? Ever seen a Hare Krishna? No? Gemma doesn't know? Eva, do you know the Hare Krishnas? No? Okay.
I don't know much about them. So,
so the Hare Krishnas, they are I don't know, what do you call them, a group, a sect, almost. There's a few restaurants around in the city and stuff, which are Hare Krishna restaurants, Gopals and Crossways. Don't know if you've ever heard of any of those, but they are purely Hare. Ooh, we lost Mel. She just disappeared. But they are vegetarian restaurants which are run by the Hare Krishnas. So they're a group. You could almost, if you wanted to, you could call them a religious group, where they're focused a bit more on Krishna as their kind of god, or the energy that they follow. And in their practice, they're really a lot into devotion. So they're a lot into this idea of bhakti yoga, the devotional aspect of yoga. And we lost you there for a second, Mel. And the Hare Krishnas, that's a big part of their practice, is the devotional aspect of their practice, and then the other practice is the karma. They're really into karma, so into doing good deeds, into service, serving their community, serving the people around them. So you can go to a Hare Krishna restaurant. You can go to, maybe not the restaurant, but they have a temple. They have one in, I think it's in Port Melbourne. There's a Krishna temple, and they have, you can go there on a Sunday and they give you food for free. You can have lunch for free, or dinner for free. They have a free. You then expected somewhat to stay and listen to their chanting and listen to their satsang or whatever. But I'm just presenting them as a particular group. I mean, I'm not a Hare Krishna, but I appreciate where they're coming from. It's very heart-based practice. It is, but their yoga wouldn't, they wouldn't focus at all on the asana, not even on the meditation really. I mean, it's more about the singing, the chanting, the devotion. That's their yoga, and yoga of service in itself as a practice of yoga. But yeah, look, pranayama is a part of hatha yoga, which is what we're focusing on more. That's the kind of yoga that we are studying more so. And Hatha Yoga, you could say its main qualities are the asana, the pranayama, and the meditation. Like in a nutshell, those are the three main practices that we work. Now the pranayama, we can, like you said, Melanie, we can bring the pranayama into the asana practice itself, and we should. Asana practice, particularly vinyasa, our dynamic practice, is essentially, it's all guided by the breath. The breath is a vital element of that physical practice, of the flow. So to create a really good flow, we need to be flowing with the breath. So the breath becomes a vital element of the practice itself, of the asana practice. It's a marriage, really. And so within that, whenever we're breathing consciously, that is essentially pranayama. So we use the ujjayi breath as our breath for the vinyasa practice, or for a lot of the asana practice, because it's just the suitable rhythm to use for that practice. And yeah, it should always be there as an element, which is why I'm sure every time you go to a yoga class, the teacher's always bringing some kind of breath element into the class. But yes, like you said, Mel, you can just practice pranayama as a practice in itself, and just sit and practice these breathing rhythms, and that's where it becomes more like breath work, and that is its own practice in itself. And that's going to be part of your homework this week, is to practice some breath work. And Mel, you asked, is that something you do, something one does on its own or whatnot, as a practice by itself? And yes, and for me personally, that's, for me on my journey of yoga, that's now my most important practice. I find the pranayama as the most powerful practice for my yoga in general. So my daily practice is I sit in the morning and do 45 minutes of pranayama. So 45 minutes just purely working with different breathing rhythms, and then I'll do 15 minutes or so meditation, and that's my morning practice. I don't even bother with the asana because I get it teaching 10-15 classes a week, so I don't feel I need to. On the days that I'm not teaching, then I'll do an asana class with someone, or just intuitively do my own practice. But yeah, pranayama is a vital element of the asana practice, but it's also a practice in itself. So let's just continue. There was a few more things written in that manual before we move on. So there it says also, after the definition there, pranayama is an integral part of yoga. The controlled breathing enables both the rhythm of performing yoga poses and relaxing the mind for meditation. Pranayama in Hatha Yoga Pradipika, prana is vital energy and ayama is control and extension of the pranic energy. So this particular Swami in the Hatha Yoga Pradipika talks about pranayama as the way to awaken the kundalini. Regular practice of pranayama can lead to spiritual awakening and self-realization. The mind is the king of the senses, and the breath is the king of the mind. So there you have it. Now, the rest of this chapter is talking about some of the different pranayams. So we've got here Dirga pranayam, Brahmari pranayam, Nadi Shodhan pranayam, Sitkari, Shitali, talks about Kumbhakas, Kapalabhati, Ujjayi, Bastrika, diaphragmatic breathing, enhanced diaphragmatic breathing. Yeah. Now, we're not going to cover all of those today. That's too much to try and understand. I'm just going to teach you a few of those essential rhythms, essential pranayama rhythms, and so that ideally then you can practice them, you can really get to embody them, feel their benefits, understand them, and then ultimately you're able to teach them. This lecture goes on to include a whole bunch of Sanskrit sutras or written elements which are from the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, that book that's been mentioned. And so it's written in Sanskrit with the translation in Sanskrit and then the transliteration. Now again, that stuff is stuff you can read in. Well, I'm not going to go through that in our lecture today. There's quite a bit there. It's interesting stuff if you'd like to look into it a little more. It's just basically some of it's instructions on how to do the pranayama work, and some of it is just information on what's happening through this practice. Yeah, so you're welcome to read that in your own time, but not essential for our understanding of pranayama. Let's just work with some of the practices and try to embody them. Any questions at all? Does that all make sense to what pranayama is then? And why we'd want to do it? Good. Then let's start by exploring some pranayama. So the first thing to explore, I think, is really understanding there's 3 different areas of the body that we breathe into, so to speak, and so we can divide our breath, our regular breath, into 3 different parts, and that's diaphragmatic breathing, the thoracic area of the body, so thoracic breathing, and the clavicular breathing. So those 3 areas can be 3 types of breathing if we're just focusing the breath into those specific areas. So first of all, we need to understand that, of course, our main breathing apparatus are the lungs. And the lungs, where are they? They're in the chest, aren't they? So we've got our rib cage. We can sort of feel the rib cage. I want you to maybe feel your rib cage, like the bottom of the rib cage. Where does it go to? So you feel into the bottom of your rib cage, like you could stick your fingers around the bottom of the rib cage. And so the bottom of the rib cage is how deep the lungs go. So the lungs, they live inside the rib cage. We've got the lungs, the 2 lungs, and our heart protected by the rib cage. So they're really 2 of our most vital organs, the heart and the lungs, which is why, this incredible design of our human body, we've protected them with these ribs. The digestive organs inside the belly, the stomach, the spleen, the liver, the kidneys at the back, all of that doesn't have the same protection as the lungs and the heart. You know, there's no rib cage there for various reasons, but I mean, they're all vital organs, but these are probably the most vital, is the heart and the lungs. They're the most important, really, because each and every moment that every moment of our life, these need to be functioning all the time, and they do that just automatic functioning. The lungs breathe, and the heart pumps the blood, and they're related, of course. When we breathe into the lungs, the oxygen then enters into the heart, and then the heart pumps the body through the bloodstream with the oxygen. So, you know, the blood is essentially, it's bringing the vital nutrients to the body, and the big part of that vital nutrient is the oxygen. It's the air that we breathe, so it's making sure that feeds the whole body. So we've got then the diaphragm muscle. When we put our hands under the rib cage there, we're essentially, you know, if you could kind of like stick your hands really kind of underneath the rib cage, that muscle that we're getting into there is the diaphragm muscle. So that's the muscle that separates the digestive system, the digestive area, the stomach, you could say, and all the digestive organs, from the thoracic, from the heart and lungs. So the diaphragm muscle is the muscle that is actually, if you breathe deep into your belly, you're activating that diaphragm muscle. If you draw the belly in and you breathe in, you allow the belly to expand, you breathe out, you draw the belly in. The action is from that diaphragm muscle. That's what's doing the work. It's that muscle down there underneath the rib cage, and that's you could say it's the most important muscle in your body, because if that muscle stopped working, you'd stop breathing, and then goodbye. That'd be the end of you. And you know, just a consideration of what is this the breath. What it's doing is it's essentially connecting us to our life force. It's drawing in that vital electricity or charge that keeps us alive. And what is it that keeps us alive? It's the food that we eat. It's the water that we drink. What nourishes us. Food, water, but also breath. And we can live without food and water for some time, but we can't live without breath for more than a couple of minutes. So the breath is the most essential aspect of connecting us to life energy. So it's interesting, like you said, Mel, that you know, a lot of us don't really breathe all that deeply, don't really have a connection to our breath. We just take it for granted, and we just, don't. A lot of us breathe very shallowly, and so shallow breathing means less oxygen is moving through the bloodstream. It means the body is essentially becoming less vital, and that in itself regulates the mind as well. So the mind also becomes more scattered, just purely because we don't breathe deep enough. So pranayama becomes this incredible tool to enhance our life force. So one thing is that the yogis of past, they they always kind of looked out at nature to understand things, and they saw out in nature. They're looking at different animals and how different animals breathed, and they noticed that the animals that breathe slower and essentially deeper, who had a slower and deeper breath, were actually the animals that lived longer lives. So if you think about it, some of the animals that breathe slow and deeply are things like turtles or tortoises, crocodiles. Ava jumped crocodiles. Is that your favourite animal or your scariest animal? Elephants. And so if you ever watch a crocodile, speaking of crocodile breathe, you see it sits on the ground and its belly sort of moves out and then slowly back in. It really breathes really slowly, crocodiles, same as turtles and elephants. And these are animals that live like 100 years or even more. And then you see an animal like a dog or a cat, and watch how they breathe. Dogs, they breathe really fast, don't they? And how long do dogs live? And cats? 10, 15 years. Very lucky if they live to 20 years. And it's not a size relative thing, a turtle is really small, but a turtle can live to 100 years. And so they figured, wow, the way an animal breathes can actually determine how long they actually live. And so yogis took this as their kind of lesson that, okay, if we can consciously slow our breath down, we can actually potentially live longer. And so it's been said that from this observation that your life is not measured by the amount of years that you live, but by the amount of breaths that you take. So it's like we've if all is kind of well in a regular, we don't get cancer, we don't get any sicknesses, we don't get hit by a car or whatever. If we have just a regular life, our life is measured by a certain amount of breaths. It's not actually measured by an amount of years. So it's up to us as to how many years we might want to live according to how quickly we go through our breaths. So essentially, if we breathe slower and deeper, we will live a longer life. And yeah, yogis up in the Himalayas have been known to live to 200 to 300 years. And that's because of it's because of all of the practice, but the breath work itself is a big part of that. So it's kind of, it's inspirational, isn't it? To maybe want to have a more vital, and it's not just about the length of life to live, but obviously if we're breathing deeper and all those other things are happening, then our whole vitality is more enhanced. So going back to those three sections, so we've got the lungs which live within the rib cage, within we call that the thoracic. So this sort of central part of the chest, the bottom of the rib cage to the whole rib cage area is the thoracic. So that's the thoracic. The clavicular is essentially the clavicle are those kind of bones, the bones, those ones at the top there, those quite pronounced bones at the top. So that's the clavicle, and the idea of clavicular breathing is to take the breath right up into into that space. So almost like saying taking it up into your throat, into your neck. And then the other part is the abdomen, the abdominal breathing. So that's the abdomen is the stomach. It's the whole digestive area. So the lungs live inside the rib cage, and you've got the diaphragm which separates the lungs from the abdominal organs, abdominal. So technically, really, we don't breathe into the abdomen. We just breathe into the lungs. But when we breathe really, really deeply, and we, really focus on drawing the diaphragm down, when we do that, what happens is that naturally the diaphragm moves down further into the belly, so it presses the belly down, and it makes the belly expand a little more. So the idea of an abdominal breath is to breathe nice and deep down, like you're breathing into the belly. And it feels like you're breathing into the belly. When you take that deep breath, you feel the abdomen expand. So it feels like the belly is filling up with oxygen, with breath. And I mean, in some ways it is too, because even though technically the lungs aren't expanding into the belly themselves, but the oxygen that comes from the lungs and moves into the bloodstream is enhanced in the belly as well. So that there, abdominal breath, is probably the most important of our kind of relaxing breaths. So I'd like you to just try that first of all. Just have your hands on your belly. And have them so that the fingertips, so your middle fingers are just connecting around the belly button, more or less. Yeah? So that when you're neutral, so that when you breathe nice and deeply and send the diaphragm down, you should feel that those, the fingers come apart a little bit, because you're kind of pressing the fingers away. So just close your eyes and do that a few times, just in your own time. Just really feel into belly expanding, belly really opening up. So the inhale obviously is the expansion, and then the exhale is the softening, the fingertips coming back together, the relaxing. So the inhale becomes the active part of the breath. We make the action to consciously breathe deeper, and the exhale is just the relaxing part of the breath. We don't need any effort there on the exhale. Inhale is the action, and exhale is just the surrender. Good, and then just gently release. Open the eyes. Shut And what can you tell me about that little exercise? How does that make you feel when you breathe that deep? Gemma, how did that make you feel? Anything at all? Did you feel anything from breathing deeply like that?
More relaxed.
More
And
relaxed.
at ease.
And at ease. Beautiful. Would you mirror that, Eva? Would you say you felt a bit more relaxed from taking those deep breaths?
Yeah, I feel like my whole body is more like chilled, relaxed. Yeah, that's the main thing I realized it. and it's actually and you feel very refreshed as well. Like you feel like a fresh, you know, thought. Yeah, and it releases your tense as well. Like you know, yeah, probably that's the reason why it said it will actually better for your anxieties or pressure, yeah, depressed if you're anxious, and yeah, I think that's probably the reason why I said that. Yes, it does actually release a bit, yeah, tense. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? I mean, it's kind of really simple, really simple technique, and just you feel it. You can taste the benefits immediately. You really just get to, yep, it all makes sense, doesn't it? But that's just the abdominal part of the breath. But that's, and look, a lot of people don't breathe into the abdomen, don't breathe abdominal breaths. A lot of people, as I said, breathe quite shallowly. They just breathe the clavicle breath. And so if you're just breathing, so now I'd like you to kind of change things up a bit, and now prevent yourself from breathing deeply, and do the opposite. Like focus just on breathing into the clavicle. So just keep the belly locked in, locked in. No expanding of the chest. So just send the breath up. So you're not going to breathe as deep. I'm doing that now, and it's making me feel hot actually by doing that. It's increasing my blood pressure. I can feel that. So
It feels like holding on, whereas the other one was letting go.
It is, isn't it? So it's immediately just bringing into the sympathetic nervous system, which is more that stress place. And so a lot of people are breathing like that all day long. They're not breathing deep into their belly because they just haven't learned how. And there's all sorts of reasons why, but you can feel that immediately when you just breathe up there in the clavicular breathing on its own. It just causes that kind of stress and anxiety. Well, it's good that we've got these techniques so we don't have to be in that stressful place. Now, then we've got that other one, the thoracic. So the thoracic's kind of like this in-between place, between the abdominal, between the clavicular. So with the thoracic, what we want to do, maybe a good way to explore it is bring the hands on the sides of the rib cage. And so you're focusing now, so a little engagement of the core muscles with this one. So you're breathing a little more into the rib cage itself. So your intention is to expand the rib cage. So if we feel we're pressing the ribs away with the inhale. Just try that a few times. Close your eyes and really focus on expanding and contracting the rib cage itself. Allow the breath to slow down as much as you can. Make it nice and deep. Really tune into how that makes you feel as well. And then when you're ready, just release that little exercise and blink your eyes back open. And who'd like to volunteer how that makes you feel? Compared to the other two types of breathing.
Just slowing down the breathing feels like a positive.
Mm.
I think I got a bit more out of the going down lower.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously started feeling a little bit stressed with just that clavicle.
So could you say it's maybe somewhere in between?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. For me, yeah.
Mm.
Which is probably what I do mostly during my days. That middle sort of
That middle ground.
room for improvement.
Oh.
For me, I think breathing in here will probably feel like more relaxed. And this is in the middle, and this is more like intense, that's what I feel.
Yeah. Yeah, good. Mm. So I guess the most important thing to realize just out of this little practice is just how the way in which we breathe can have quite a significant impact on our state of mind, on our emotions and our state of mind. So ultimately though, yeah, that abdominal breath is probably one of the most important ones that we can keep coming back to, and one of the best ones we can teach our students. But we can go a step further and actually incorporate all those three into the one big breath, and we call that full yoga breathing, or also known as the Dirgha Pranayama. So the Dirgha Pranayama, or full yoga breathing, is essentially all those three compartments combined, but moving through them one by one, so that you breathe. So the one inhalation, and just remember the inhale is usually, not always, but usually it's the active part of the breath, and the exhale is usually, not always, usually the passive part of the breath. So in that one active inhale, we start by expanding into the abdomen, we continue expanding into the thoracic, and we complete expanding up into the clavicle. And that's the really important part, is that active inhale, working through all those three sections one by one. And then as you exhale, you kind of reverse the process. There's different schools. Some say you breathe from the top first, then the middle, then the bottom. Some say you breathe out of the bottom first, middle, and then top. And that's something you can try to see what works best for you. But let's have a quick go, a little practice at this, and we'll go for lunch, and we'll come back and practice it again after lunch. But let's have a little practice of it just as we are sitting up. What I'd like us to consider is we'll breathe to a count of 7, and so we'll break it down into 1, 2, 3, 4 into the abdomen, so abdominal part. So 4 out of 7 is more than half of the active inhale is expanding the belly, because that's the most important. 5 and 6 is expanding up into the chest, and 7 is just topping it up into the clavicle. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, belly, 5, 6 expands through the chest, and 7 up to the clavicle. And then as we breathe out, we'll do belly first, 2, 3, 4, chest, 2, and clavicle, 1. So let me show you my body first, just to make sure we're getting it. Can one of you, maybe Ava, do you mind counting? So I want you just to count up to 7 a few times at about this rate. So you'd go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3. So just keep counting. Just do 7 about 4 or 5 times.
Yeah.
And watching my body, and I'll show it with my hands first as well.
Sorry, my background kids noise. I just close the door.
No worries.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
So you get the idea? Seeing the way my body's working and how we're trying to, first 4 counts, expand the abdomen, 5 and 6 into the thoracic, and 7 like topping it right up to the top of the lungs. So I'll count now, a few rounds, and you guys breathe. So releasing your current breath. And breathe into the belly, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Exhale, belly, 2, 3, 4, chest, and 7. Inhale, belly, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Exhale, belly, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And keep going in your own time, a few more rounds, just in your own time. And then after the next exhale, just completing the technique. Blinking our eyes back open. And how did you go with that? So that there is our full yoga breath, or also called Dirga Pranayama. And that is a tool or a technique that is I reckon one of the most important, one of the most effective tools that you can give people. So when you're teaching yoga, and look, particularly when you, let's say, if you decide to go out and be a teacher after this, and you're going out, let's say, and doing, often we come across classes where we just go to do a one-off class, maybe at a school for kids, in a workplace, workplace yoga class, at a festival, wherever you decide, or wherever you end up teaching, and you just do these kind of one-off classes where you're essentially giving people an introduction to yoga, or showing them the benefits of yoga. This breath here, this full yoga breathing, and we'll come back after lunch, we'll try it lying down as well. It'd be nice after lunch to have a little lie down. And it's really like one of the most, you feel it immediately. Everyone just is always like, oh wow, that's great, I'm so relaxed now. That's a really, really good technique. Thank you very much. And so you say, look, if anything else, if you can take anything away from the yoga that you've learned today, something that you can practice at home anytime, this breathing technique.
What was it called?
The full yoga breath. Full yoga breath is our English way of calling it, and the Sanskrit way is called Dirga. Dirga, spelled Dirgha, Dirga Pranayama. And yeah, it's kind of like the ultimate relaxation breathing technique. Any questions at all?
I have a question. I've tried this in a yoga class, a breathing technique that's short and sharp just through the nose. What are the benefits of just using that short breath? And
The fire breath.
yeah, that.
We'll come to it afterwards. We'll towards the end of our lecture today, we'll work on that one, and I'll tell you why you would do that compared to this. Generally speaking, this one that we've just done is the most ideal kind of overall relaxing pranayama. So if that's our intention, to relax, this is kind of one of the ones. There's a couple others as well, but this is a great one. I mean, in a nutshell, the fast one is an energizing one. So it's sort of more energizing, more activating. So sometimes it can be useful to use in an asana class where we're about to move really fast dynamically. So often that faster breath is good for the beginning or during a class, whereas this relaxing one is good at the end. Although sometimes it's nice to relax at the beginning of a class too, because people come into a class often stressed out from the day or whatever. So it can be useful to actually bring them into a state of relaxation to start. Enjoy your lunch. Come back at 3. See you at 3. Recording. We've been exploring a little bit of pranayama earlier on today, Annie. Let's hear it from the team, what they've learned so far. What can you tell me, Eva? What have you learned so far about pranayama? Tell me a couple of things.
From my understanding is about how to breathe and using different techniques of breathing, and it's meaning about breathing techniques, isn't it?
And what's the purpose of these breathing techniques? What do they do? What's the effects it has on us?
like a fixing anxiety, depression. For me.
Yeah, it can help
Yeah.
to solve those problems for sure.
Yeah, and to better well, the breathing is one of the most important technique in yoga, right? It's better to well, I heard some people saying before what I heard it say that yoga is mainly about breathing. I don't know where did I heard it, but that's what I heard.
Mainly about breathing, did you say?
Breathing, yes. So learning how to breathe stuff. So yeah, I don't know when and where did I heard that, but yeah. So I suppose breathing is a very important in doing yoga. You know?
It's a very important element of our practice.
Yeah.
Good.
Yes.
Thanks, Eva. Gemma, have you got anything to add? What have you taken away from today so far?
Pretty much like how powerful the breath can be, and the different like breathing techniques that you can use to like slow it down or like have different effects on the body and like the mind through different ways of breathing.
Yeah, good.
I found it interesting about like how like crocodiles and turtles and elephants live longer because of their breathing pattern.
Yeah, because they breathe slower and deeper, don't they? Good one. Thanks, Gemma. Mel, have you got anything to add of what you've learnt about pranayama so far today?
I guess it's been good to clarify probably what I already knew, but it takes a while for these things to solidify in my mind. So I'm feeling probably a bit more confident now of what I know pranayama to be. So yeah, as in prana is our life force and pranayama is the practice.
Right, yeah.
Get the flow.
Yeah, prana is the life force and pranayama is the expansion or the enhancement of the life force. So it's a practice that helps to boost that life force. Another thing that we'd like to consider with pranayama, when we're breathing, so one thing is the physical aspect of the breath, that we see that as oxygen, even though you can't see oxygen, but we know scientifically that when we breathe, we draw in oxygen or carbon, sometimes carbon dioxide in there as well. Whatever's in the air that we're breathing, we draw that in. But the other thing that we'd like to consider is that this idea of the prana, which again we can't see. So the prana is the invisible energy, invisible energy, invisible to the naked eye. But this energy then moves through the body, not just in the sense of oxygen then moving into the bloodstream through the heart, but also, and this is where it gets a little more esoteric, but also the prana itself moves into the pranamaya kosha. So the pranamaya kosha we did it with the Saturday group last week. So Gemma and Eva, Mel and Annie, we looked a little bit at koshas last week, but Eva and Gemma, you guys haven't yet. So koshas are essentially the yogic way of understanding our bodies, you could say, and just see if I can bring up a picture at all. picture handy on mine.
What does kosher translate to mean? Like, what it's
Kosher
literally.
translates to meaning sheath.
Geez, that's right. Thank you.
So, so just very quickly, we have 5 koshas, 5 predominant koshas that we work with in yoga, and I'm just bringing up a picture to illustrate it. Here we go. Okay, this is often it's the other way around, but it doesn't matter too much, just to give you an idea. Share screen. Okay, so oh no, this is right. Yeah. Okay, so if we look from the top to the bottom, we've got at the top Annamaya Kosha, which is the physical body. And that's essentially our physical body that we know, the flesh and bones. And then we go inwards. So then the next kosha is the Pranamaya Kosha, funnily it's called Prana. It's got that word almost like Pranayama, Pranamaya. So all the excuse me. All the body words end with the maya. Kosha is designating a sheath. So sheath is meaning like a layer. So we've got like the layers of the onion. These are the different layers of our body, of our being. And maybe the word body's not good either, because body you associate it with the physical body. So these other bodies aren't physical bodies. They are the first one, Pranamaya, or the second one. The first one is the physical body, Annamaya Kosha. The second one is the Pranamaya Kosha, which is the energy body. The third one is the Manomaya Kosha, which is the emotional or also the mental body. Then there is the Vijnanamaya Kosha, which is the wisdom body. And then finally the Anandamaya, which is the bliss body. And so these bodies are all interwoven aspects of who we are, and we know we have our mind. So Manomaya Kosha is essentially the mind itself. So it's the aspect of mind, the mental aspect of who we are, but we call it a layer in itself. Vijnanamaya Kosha is somewhat the mind as well, but it's more looking at the wisdom part. So the access to all our stored experiences and whatnot in our subconscious. And the Anandamaya Kosha is the bliss body. So that's often represented like the heart. So it's the soul aspect of who we are, and that's what then connects to the infinite. But let's not worry too much about those last few. We're more concerned about the first two, and more so the second one. So Annamaya Kosha, the physical body that we know well, the blood and bones, and it actually means the translation is often the food sheath. So here it said physical body, but sometimes it's translated as sheaths. So this one is the food sheath, meaning that it's the food that we eat is what sustains the physical body. So physical body sustained through food that we eat. So the Pranamaya Kosha, the energy body, also known as the vital sheath, is sustained through prana. So through the prana, through the life force. Now, while these are all separated, they're also kind of woven together. They're intertwined. It's not like you really have one without the other. They all relate. They all interrelate, and they all sort of merge and affect each other. So the pranamaya kosha, the energy body, becomes like the blueprint for the physical body. So the blueprint is like the map. Like if we go back to the idea of the house, so we've got the energy coming from the generator through the electric wires, and then we've got maybe a blueprint. You got like a sorry, I know I cut out there for a second. So going back to the idea of the body, our body being the house. So if we map it out, we've got an architectural drawing of the house itself. Then you know in an architect's drawings they have the house. They show the shape of the house, the walls, the windows, the doors, whatever. And then they've also got then a blueprint of where the electricity and the plumbing and that kind of thing would run through. So where the electricity runs through, that's the pranamaya kosha for our body. It's the blueprint for our physical body. But it also, as you can see, kind of relates to manomaya kosha, so it relates also to the next body as well, to the emotional body. And we felt that immediately when we worked with our breath just before. We did a bit of full yoga breathing practice, and we noticed that it actually sort of calmed our emotions, it calmed us down, it made us more relaxed, more at ease. That was everyone's experience. So while we're working on that pranamaya kosha level, we're working on the energy body or the vital sheath, it inadvertently affects the mental sheath, the manomaya kosha or emotional sheath, and then it also will affect your physical body as well. So it will enhance the well-being of your physical body. And that's, the mental one we can feel immediately. We can feel the emotions change or the mind shift immediately. The physical body is different. Usually it's through longer, more sustained practice that we feel that the body is more vital. Although through a long practice you will also feel body feeling good afterwards. Does that make some kind of sense? So when we're working pranayama on that energetic level, we're essentially moving the energy through the pranic body. And let's have a look at something else. I should save these images so I can always use them again. So remember last week we talked about the chakras, and the chakras also they are essentially placed within the this is a good one. The chakras themselves are placed within the pranamaya kosha, within the energy system of the body. So here we see some kind of pictorial illustration of that. Well, it's hard to really draw it essentially, because it's not just a simple 2D thing. It's multi-dimensional really. But if we looked at the chakras, we've got those 7 main chakras there running through the center. We've got those main nadis, which the chakras work through. The central one is called the Sushumna Nadi, the central channel of fire. And then you've got the ones that spiral through. One's called Ida and the other one's called Pingala Nadi. So on this picture, see it's written there. On the right, you've got Ida Nadi, Pingala Nadi, Sushumna Nadi. Those are the 3 main and most important nadis. This image here shows a representation of many more nadis. So if you can see that image there, can you see that other image? Is that showing up, the black and white one? So this is pictures with so you can see all the chakras in there, and then all these other channels, meridians, and see those other little circles on the arms and on the legs. Those are other smaller chakras. So there are other chakras as well. But yeah, we concern ourselves with the main 7 through the center. But all those other little lines are essentially like the nadis or meridians, which they sort of travel through the body. And they're traveling through the Pranamaya Kosha. So this is the map of the Pranamaya Kosha. So this essentially is the Pranamaya Kosha map, which most holistic therapists work with this. So the Chinese medicine model is slightly different, but same but different. So what they call them the acupuncture points and the meridian lines of the body, but they correspond pretty much to all the ones here. It's just a different language to explain the same sort of concept. And so a Chinese medicine doctor uses that framework to diagnose someone if someone's got an imbalance, and they see it more so from that energetic perspective. So an imbalance of energy flowing through any of these channels. So the idea is for us to be really healthy and vital is the energy is flowing through all these channels effectively, and when the energy doesn't flow effectively, there's a blockage, which then results in sickness or disease, whether that's physical or mental or emotional. So even our mental turmoil can be caused by an imbalance within the energy system of our body.
I imagine this would be a go-to for Ayurveda too, eh?
This would be, sorry?
This would be used well in Ayurveda.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Ayurveda, yeah, wow.
Yeah, Ayurveda is essentially like the Indian Chinese medicine approach. So the idea is that through our pranayama practice, we help to clear, but also to charge all these channels. So you can see these channels sometimes as a channel. And it's what is a channel? If you think of a channel of irrigation, of when you're in agriculture, if you think of the way even ancient man used to irrigate their lands, they would have a source of water. So let's say a river or a dam that they create, or a lake, and then they would dig some channels coming from the dam across the earth. So these channels would snake their way through the earth, and then the water would flow into the channels to make the land fertile, so that then the plants would then grow. Now, if those channels, let's say, were not very deep, if they hadn't been dug very deep, there would only be a little bit of water flowing through them. But if the farmers worked on digging the channels really deep, then the channels would be full of water. And so when they're full of water, more plants would grow. They would grow more effectively. And this is essentially the same in our Pranamaya Kosha. We have all these channels moving through us. And the energy that flows through the channels is the prana, which is like the water that flows through the channels in irrigation. And depending on how well established our channels are, will mean how much more prana flows through the channels and how much more vitality comes to the body. So the plants themselves that grow out of the earth, that are fed by the water in the channels, is like our physical body. You know, if our pranic channels are well established, then our physical body and our skin will be healthy. Our body will be healthy. We'll have greater vitality. So, a really important thing to consider, that to have those channels well established, well kind of dug out. One of the only real way to do that is through the breath. The breath is what ultimately feeds these channels. So just by breathing, we create those channels. Those channels are created. We've all got the channels. There's no doubt about that. But as to how deep and well established those channels are, how much prana is moving through them, can change according to our actual breathing practice. So pranayama practice can literally make big differences to our vitality. And that's why, Ava, you might have heard somewhere that yoga is all about the breath, because that's, when you think about it from that perspective, it makes it really, really important. So let's practice a little bit more pranayama, a little bit more breathing. So we've established one, that we can enhance the prana through longer and deeper breaths. That's one of the ways. Then consider those channels, and when I said like sometimes you for irrigation you might create like a dam. You might dam off water. You might have a little section where to be able to contain the water, so there's a bigger storehouse of that water. So we can do the same with our pranayama practice. Now I won't go deep into that today, because that's covered by another couple of lectures. One is the bandhas, and another one is the bandhas, and another one is the mudras. So bandhas and mudras are techniques, are kind of like little tidbits that you add on to your pranayama practice, which becomes kind of like this kind of damming action within our energy system. So these little techniques which basically help to boost and contain the energy. But another one of those techniques is the breathing techniques. So there's a few. But another interesting one to consider is breath, what we call kumbhaka, which is breath retention. So it's holding the breath, either in or out. It can be either holding the breath in or holding the breath out. And when these held breaths are done really consciously and really effectively, so sometimes we say, people are holding their breath all the time because they're not breathing effectively. If you're breathing up into your collarbones all the time, you're always in a state of fright or fear. It seems like you're holding the breath. But I'm not talking about that kind of holding the breath. I'm talking about that we have already established a deep deep breath practice. And then through that practice and through that rhythm, let's say we're breathing full yoga breaths, and then after some time we take a deep breath in and we hold the breath in, and we create these little locks, these bandhas, and through those deeper holds and just holding the breath, retaining the breath, it's kind of like then you're creating this dam in your energy system that then effectively boosts the energy within you and enhances it. It's quite magical stuff, actually. Like it's one of the reasons I love practicing this practice as my daily practice, because you feel the immediate effects. You can get kind of high off it. It's like pranic intoxication. So people go out and get intoxicated on alcohol and drugs and things like that. No need. You can intoxicate on prana, and it's wonderful. And there's no side effects except for you feel healthier and more clear.
I did my one and only yoga retreat at the start of 2019. I was looking forward to doing more over the next little while, but anyway, it was 1 week, and literally for 3 or 4 days after, I was literally high. I knew it would end, but I was just holding on to. But it wasn't uncommon.
Wonderful.
Everyone was feeling the same.
Yeah, well, that's it. When you really go deep into this work, it's kind of like what happens. Retreats are great for it because you immerse in the practice over a weekend or over a week. I've got a retreat coming up in November, if we're allowed to.
Yes, I'll keep my eye on that one, Mickey.
You are welcome to join that one.
Sorry, could you remind me of the dates?
It's the 19th, I think, to the 21st of November.
Okay.
Whereabouts?
In Hillsville. So, not too far. And it's a nice Tibetan Buddhist centre. Like it's a little retreat centre backed up against the forest. Really beautiful, really peaceful place. It's a nice forest energy. If we're allowed, I mean, who knows? In theory, we should be, but we'll see how things go. But otherwise, I've got it booked in again for February. One in Feb. I generally run retreats, a week retreat in Thailand as well every year during our winter. I take people to Thailand for a whole week there. But I haven't done that for the last 2 years. Hopefully again soon. Alright, let's do some more practicing. So, before we were practicing full yoga breathing. So I'd just like to just try that one more time, but if we could, this time what we'll do is we'll try it lying down. So just, it's kind of nice too, just to relax lying down for a bit. But before you go and lie down, again, I'll get you to watch me do it, and just watch my body as I do it, lying down. And again, can I get someone to count? Maybe someone else can count this time.
Do you want me to count, Mickey?
Oops, sorry. So yeah,
Do you want me to count?
Watching my body and do what we did before. Count of 7. Just do 7 a few times.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. In.
Get the picture? So you try. Lie down. Find a place where you can lie down. And I'll count you through. I'll count you through for a few rounds, and then do some rounds on your own. So just remember that's always a important thing to consider, that we've all got different lung capacities. My lung capacity will be very different to yours. I've probably most likely got a deeper lung capacity to most of you, because I do a lot of this pranayama practice. So pranayama, that's another big benefit. It enhances our lung capacity. And when you're working with your students, of course, every student's going to have a different lung capacity. So we've always got to tell students, to try to breathe to our count, but if it's not comfortable, not to force it. Because if it's forced, if you try to force a count that doesn't flow with you, that's not manageable, then it kind of, things will switch. An exercise that's meant to relax you will end up stressing you out. So that's why it's always good when you're doing pranayama is to maybe you guide the first few counts so that you just let them understand the rhythm, but then you suggest that people breathe in their own time at a count that's comfortable for them. So that's what we'll do now. I'm going to guide you to a count of 7 for a few rounds, and then you work with it in your own time. So whether you need to make that slower or faster depends on your lung capacity. So let's try. You're probably already trying, but let's see if you can come into my rhythm. So releasing your current breath and breathing into the belly, 2, 3, 4, chest and to the top of the lungs, and breathe out, belly, 2, 3, 4, chest and top of the lungs. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And keep going in your own time for a few more rounds. Try to relax the rest of the body. Taking in that full yoga breath. So tuning into how you feel after this practice, maybe just petering off now, coming back to a regular breath. And then take your time, nice and slowly, when you're ready to come back up to sitting. A little relaxed, are we? Is anyone almost?
I could go to sleep now.
I was going to say, was anyone almost going to sleep there? Who reckons they could try to run us through that again? Who would like to give it a go? Mel? All right. Okay, team. Melanie's going to guide us through our full yoga breathing. Would you guide us sitting or lying down?
I'm going to go with lying down. Is that all right?
Yep.
I'm
All
just
right.
wondering if you can get a better breath.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah. So if
In fact, lying down is the best way to do this breath.
Yeah.
The
So
full
please lie down again. So guys, we're going to do a full yoga breath for 7 counts. Around about the first 4 counts is breathing, filling up your belly. Then 2 counts filling up your chest. 1 count filling up your clavicle area. And so I'll count you in for 7 and then you'll exhale for 7, but working towards what is most comfortable for your lung capacity and how you're feeling today. So just take 1 big cleansing breath in and out. And let's start with our full yoga breath. I'll count you in. Inhale through the belly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale through the belly. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale through the belly first. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Continue at your own pace. Filling up the belly, chest, clavicle. Empty the belly, chest, clavicle. Finish this round and then take your time to get into a seated position.
Well done, Mel. That was wonderful.
Yeah. Not too fast.
That was good pace, great pace. I don't know, how was it for everyone else? Was it a good pace? Yeah, I reckon you did beautifully. So well done. So as I said, that's kind of like, it's one of those just like super tools that you can carry in your kit. Super tool to help create positive change in people's lives, because that's really what we're on about as yogis. We're out there to create those positive vibrations out in the world, and that's
On that note, guys, between the two of you, I felt some nice little shifts in this left side where I've been having a bit of pain, so making difference in the world already.
wonderful. Good to hear. So now, moving into another one of our techniques, our Ujjayi, which we've already mentioned. Ujjayi breath, which is translated as the victorious breath. Now, Ujjayi is a slightly different technique than the full yoga breath, and its effect is a balance of energizing and relaxing, you could say, a balance of the two. It's both energizing and relaxing, so it's a real kind of, on the scales of, if you one end is energizing, one end's relaxing. It's that one that sort of lies in the middle. This previous one is more on the relaxing end. This one is right in the middle in the sense that it has a relaxing effect, but it also has an energizing effect. Now, the main technique is the contraction or the constriction of the throat, the activating of the epiglottis. Epiglottis is the swallowing reflex in the throat. So it's that action of the throat when we go when we drink water, that muscle, I don't know if it's a muscle, I guess it's a muscle, I'm not sure, or is it a gland, whatever it is, it's that part of the body in the throat that helps us to swallow. So we use it all the time when we swallow water, when we swallow our food. We're always using it, again, without even noticing, without consciously using it. So the aim is to activate that so that you end up creating what it feels like. It's this kind of contraction or constriction of the glottis. So if I could show this picture here, this is the glottis of the throat there in those little circles, showing you some of the different shapes that it can take. From the top here, wide open, semi-closed, and a lot more closed down the bottom. So that's in the throat itself. Now, our aim is to create a little constriction at the throat, so we semi-close it. It's not completely closed, we semi-close it. Now, why do we do this? There's a couple of reasons. One, through the closure of the glottis, or the semi-closure of the glottis, that ends up creating a little bit of a vibration, so that we feel the breath moving through the throat. In turn, that vibration actually activates our throat chakra. So that little wheel that spins energetically at the throat, that's enhanced through the vibration. That vibration becomes almost like an audible sound. So it also gives the mind a connection, a deeper connection to the breath, because the mind is more aware then of the breath. We can listen to, we can feel, we can listen to the sound of the breath, we can feel the vibration of the breath, and so the mind becomes more focused on the breath itself. And that's part of the practice of yoga, is, along those eight steps, is to then train the mind to be one-pointed focused, to concentrate, and so the breath becomes a tool for that concentration. Then there's another reason, two reasons. Another reason is through the closure or the semi-closure of the glottis. If you think about that as the pipe to enter into the lungs, if it's really wide, the air will move in a lot faster. If you squeeze it, the air will move in slower, because you need to slow the breath down to get the same amount of air in that if it was wide open. So you think of a balloon, when you're blowing the balloon through that bit of the tube, that breath, if it's all wide open, will just go straight in. If it's sort of squeezed, you need to slow it right down to be able to get the same amount in. So essentially that helps to slow the breath down. And then finally, that creates a slight friction as well. This kind of friction which creates a little bit of turbulence. So this turbulence, it's kind of like the air then, this turbulence happens as the air enters into the lungs, and so that turbulence and that friction just very subtly heats the air. So it creates a little bit more heat, and so that's where we get the energizing effect from that breath, is that the air coming into the lungs is now a little bit warmer. So there's a bit more sort of fire in the body as well. It's all subtle stuff, but all together this subtlety creates change. So, the way I like to explain this, if I'm teaching it for the first time, when people don't quite know, because it takes sometimes a bit of time to get it, but I like to say, well, let's pretend that we're fogging up a mirror. If we've got a mirror out in front, what the action in the throat you would do to fog up the mirror? You would go to create that warmth. You can feel that warmth immediately. And you can do it with the inhale as well, and exhale. So that's with the mouth open. But then we want to create the same contraction in the throat, like we're fogging up the mirror, but with the mouth closed. So it's a and then sometimes we exaggerate the sound, so we do a real strong constriction. So you're sounding like Darth Vader almost. But that's what happens if you exaggerate. If you do too much Darth Vader, you end up having to cough. So really, we're not wanting to be full Darth Vader mode, just a gentle contraction so that we feel the vibration, but we're not audibly sounding outside to the people around us like Darth Vader. So let's practice that together, sitting nice and tall, roll the shoulders back. First of all, let's just get that mirror out in front and practice getting that contraction in the throat. So mirror out in front and with your mouth open. Now that we've got that, close the mouth, maybe swallow a couple of times because that can dry the throat out with the mouth open. And now with the mouth closed, creating that little contraction at the throat. And now remember the full yoga breath, but now just thinking of bringing the breath into all those three areas all at once, so expanding belly, chest and top of the lungs all at once. So there's a bit more focus in the thoracic, but you're still breathing deep into the belly as well. We're not fully just locking the belly, but at the same time we're not expanding the belly as wide as we might in our full yoga breath. Now just close the eyes and we'll work again to a count of 7, working that rhythm. So releasing your current breath and breathing in 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and out 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. In 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and out 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. In 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and out 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. In 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and out 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And in, and keep working in your own time. So again, whether you need to slow down that count or make it a little faster, up to you, to your lung capacity. But still make sure to keep that slight contraction at the throat. Want to be feeling the vibration the whole time. Breathe nice and deeply, really expand the lungs in each inhale. And squeeze the air out gently with the exhale without forcing. Finding a rhythm that's comfortable. Slowing it right down. And then after the next exhale, just gently releasing the technique. And blinking the eyes back open. Again, just notice how that makes you feel. How do you feel after that?
Relaxed.
Relaxed again?
Good.
Good.
Yeah.
Relaxed, but could you say maybe a little more alert than before?
Yes, more alert. Probably more calm, I think, is probably more accurate.
Mm.
I'm
Calm.
feeling very aware of my sheaths right now.
Mm.
There's, yeah. So there's that centered balance through the relax is there too. So I'm not freaking out.
Wonderful. Good. Another person to volunteer to guide us through that one. Annie, Gemma, or Eva? Who would like to have a go? I was going to say Annie, but she's frozen now. Ava, are you switching your mic on? You want to have a go?
Maybe. I guess.
Just have a try.
Okay. Breathing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. In. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Good rhythmic guidance. Well done. What I want to know though is we need to also explain the technique. So with this one here, you need to, I guess if we're guiding, so the idea is that we're teaching someone who maybe hasn't done it before. So we would say, okay, so this technique is all about contracting the throat. And so to contract the throat, we create this action, and that's where you have to put in your own words, but this action of activating the epiglottis. We don't need to say the epiglottis, we can just say, use that analogy of how do we fog up a mirror. We go, so that action in the throat, that sound, is the action that we want to create in the throat to be able to work this rhythm. So it's like we're squeezing the throat center slightly, so the air moves in slower. Yeah, and then there's all the other information that I gave you. You don't have to give all the information out all at once, but we need to give at least some kind of guidance on the technique, on how to do it. Do you want to try again with some of that information?
Maybe next time.
Next time?
Let me practice myself first. Let me be confident enough.
That's fine. And look, that's your homework. I want you to want you guys to guide 3 different pranayama techniques and put them up on the videos. Make 3 little guided videos. Annie, do you reckon you can try to bring in some of those instructions that we would start with? Go on, give it a go.
Yeah. So, Ujjayi breath. In Ujjayi breath, there is a focus on the constriction of the throat, which energizes the throat chakra. Let me start that again. Which allows both an energizing and relaxing, or rather balancing effect in the throat chakra. So to explore this breath, first I would like to invite you to close down your eyes and checking to the face and the neck, and just maybe take a few of your own breaths here, and maybe opening up the face a little bit, the neck, have a little wiggle. Just feel into the space where you're at today in this moment in time. And now we'll prepare for the breath. So on the next exhale, we're going to take an inhale of 7 counts. I'll count you in. And using that constriction, we'll inhale through the belly, chest, then up into the throat, then exhale, expansion, contraction, physics. You all know what to do. Here we go. So on the next exhale to prepare, we inhale for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Again, inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And continue that Ujjayi breath in your own time. You might want to extend the length of the inhale and exhale. You might want to bring it a little bit to shorten it down. Dealer's choice. Remember to allow that soft oceanic sound to reverberate within that region, the throat chakra. Never forcing, allowing the breath. And this will be the last. As you finish this exhale, remember, as you open your eyes, smile on your lips, grateful for the breath.
Wonderful, well done, Annie. That was beautiful. And so that technique is also then what we bring into our asana. It becomes the pranayama of choice for the majority of the asana practice. Now, we can use the full yoga breath sometimes in the asana if we're doing some kind of relaxing asana. So often in like a yin class, if you're sort of just doing, poses which are a bit more kind of lying down or relaxing poses, then you might potentially use a full yoga breath. But otherwise, generally with the asanas that require a little more effort, that breath there can also kind of give us a little bit of extra power. It has that energizing aspect which also kind of helps to build that power as well. So it becomes the most common pranayama that we use in sort of general terms for our asana practice. So it's an important one to learn how to do, an important one to practice regularly, and then an important one to learn how to teach.
Is that something you instruct Mickey, say, towards the start of the class?
Yes. So it's not like you have to in each class, but generally speaking, probably a majority of your classes you would. Sometimes there might just be an assumption that, I guess it depends on your class, but
Yeah.
if you're working with experienced people who've been coming regularly, then you might just assume that they know to bring in, and maybe you just mention it, you just say, oh yeah, make sure you're breathing your ujjayi breath as you're working through your sun salutes or whatever. But yeah, that's something that you just need to consider. Okay, who are my students? And this is for all the aspects of the class you're teaching. Who are my students? Where are they at in their practice? Are they really fresh to the practice? They haven't practiced much before. So do we need to go back to basics and break it down? Or do they know it? And sometimes you've got to err on the caution of not knowing if you're unsure. And it's always good to bring things back to basics at any point, really. Good work. So ujjayi breath, full yoga breath, breathing for relaxing. Ujjayi breath, kind of all time, anytime asana practice, and just sitting.
Okay, can I just ask with the full yoga breath, is that the same as Durga breath? Or is it a different?
Dirga breath, yeah.
Durga, it is, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Now, the other one I was going to teach you, see if we can get another 2 in, if we're lucky. So this is the one that Gemma mentioned, which is the Kapalabhati breath. Kapalabhati is this one now is a strong, energizing one. This one is more to really build fire, to build heat, to energize. So it's almost like the opposite in a way of the full yoga breath, in the sense that the full yoga breath is all about bringing on the parasympathetic nervous system. And this one somewhat stimulates the sympathetic nervous system. Now, we often see that as a negative thing, but it's not. We have a sympathetic and we have a parasympathetic, and it's not like one's good and one's bad. The idea is to have them in balance. And so sometimes sympathetic responses to things are useful. Like if we need to act strongly, fast, if we need power, we actually operate better. We're more effective from a sympathetic nervous system perspective. So even within our practice, a little bit of sympathetic nervous system activation can actually be useful, because that builds that inner fire to be able to give us the power and the strength to, whether it's to move into more challenging asanas, or whether it's just to essentially build up that inner heat. This one works really strongly with our solar center area, so solar plexus chakra. So it's real focus on that area there. Solar plexus, the sacral as well, the kind of lower chakras. It's about building up the energy in those ones, so activating the lower chakras. And one of the heating aspects is that it also builds up the digestive heat, the digestive fire. And the digestive fire is the fire that is ignited in the belly which helps to do just that, to digest our food. It's the energy that helps to digest the food more effectively. But it's also that fire in the belly to give us that energy and drive that we need for all the various purposes in our life. So if we think about, we looked at the chakras last week, that solar plexus is all about the energy, the drive, the effort, the power, the energizing. So we're wanting to do that, to build that real pull, strength and power. So great one to do at the start of a practice, great one to incorporate into your pranayama practice. Also it would be at the start, generally speaking, or near the start. It's kind of not something you do at the end, generally, because it lifts the energy, whereas you might want to chill things out towards the end of the class, generally speaking. You could do it in the middle of the class, if you've people are flailing a bit in the class, struggling to move through the vinyasa practice, you might bring him into a bit of a fire breath to really boost up that energy. So you've got to choose it wisely. Now there are some contraindications, because we're really working the belly quite strongly. A, not for pregnant girls, and B, not for people with high blood pressure, and C, not for moon day girls either. So if you're in the height of your periods, then probably not an ideal thing to be sort of working the belly really that strongly either. But I mean, that's something that you would feel into. Some women might be okay with that on their moon day, but I would say generally probably not. And here, Mel, were you going to say something?
So I was just going to say that's me out. Yeah, that's me out for doing that breath today.
Right, fair enough.
Yeah.
Good. Now, and here's where also, now that there is this revert, I said usually the action of the breath is on the inhale, and the release, the letting go is on the exhale. So the inhale is generally active. So in the Ujjayi and in the full yoga breath, inhale was active, exhale was passive. Here we flip it around. So that's kind of the main thing to understand. We flip around and create the active on the exhale and the passive on the inhale. So that's kind of a bit weird, but basically what we're wanting to do is really work the belly strong. So it's like you're pumping the belly, and the main force is the exhale. So on the exhale you draw the belly in, and on the inhale the belly's just released. So exhale, belly draws in towards the spine, inhale, the belly relaxes. So it looks something like this. So you can see that is my exhale. Exhale, belly's drawn in. Inhale is just the release. So try that if you can. If you're not in your moon day, just try to pump your belly. So fairly vigorous, faster than your full yoga breath or your Ujjayi. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And then relax. And also, not ideal to do in a full stomach either. So we're also still maybe somewhat digesting our lunch. ideally on an empty stomach. Could you feel that though? Could you feel that kind of a bit more invigorating effect from that?
I actually was feeling heat rising up into my face.
Yeah, great. Feeling that heat, feeling that fire. Gemma, do you reckon you could try, have a go, to guide us through that from whatever you grab from that, from what I told you there?
I don't know if I have confidence to do it today.
No?
I'll try next time.
Sorry?
Can I try next time?
That's fine, no worries. Try next time. Mel, do you want to try, even though you're not going to do it? Do you reckon you could try and guide us?
Yeah, I can try.
Go on.
Okay, so if you've just eaten a big meal, you might want to skip this one. Or if you are pregnant or have your period, you might want to skip this one as well. It's pretty invigorating. So something a little different, the emphasis is on your exhale. And the passive part is on the inhale, which is going to happen automatically from the pretty strong force of your exhale. You could put your hands on around your belly button, and you are going to contract that belly really strong and fast as you exhale out. I might skip it myself, but so you just want to really contract your tummy in on that exhale. Then you'll passively inhale. You forcefully exhale. You're going to do it quite fast. So 1, 2, 3, 4. See if you can do it quite sort of fast. It's that contraction, contraction, contraction. Hopefully that's making sense. You're breathing, you're exhaling out. Is it exhaling out through the mouth, Nikki? Or nose? Nose, nose. Okay, but it is a strong emphasis on that exhale. Did that make sense? Sorry, not very eloquent. Very articulate.
That was good. That was really good. Well
Yeah.
done. No, you got a lot of that. A lot of information in there, actually. So well done. Good work. Mhm. Good. So that's called the Kapalbhati breath. So that's spelt. Let's see how they spell it in this. A few different spellings sometimes.
I just looked it up. Kapalabhati is what I got. Phonetically.
Kapalabhati, yeah. BH, not T. BHATI, yeah, yeah. Kapalabhati
And
breath.
that's fire, is it?
Yeah, look, sometimes it's translated as the fire breath, but that's only because of the effect. So it has that fire action. But actually the Sanskrit word literally means skull shining breath. And the reason for that is that what it actually, another effect that it does with this kind of fast action, this invigorating action, is it actually then activates the frontal lobe of the brain. So it activates the frontal lobe of the brain. So this is where this idea of the skull, the shining skull comes from. So Kapala is skull, and Bhati is glowing or shining, radiating. So the idea is that we're activating the frontal lobe of the brain. So that also then creates that kind of clarity of mind because of the activation of the frontal lobe.
Is it a good idea to do that before a meal if you've got digestive issues, or not?
I'd never thought of that. I never considered it. I can't see why not. Maybe try. See if you can.
I'm having a bit of gut stuff happening at the moment, so I'm going to give that a shot and have a little experiment. I'll get back to you guys on how that goes.
Give it a shot. Good one. So with that one there, now you could do a number of rhythms, or a number of sort of, how long. I mean, with all these pranayamas, how long do we practice it as a pranayama in itself? And look, that's all relative. So if you're just sort of drip feeding it into an asana class, you might just do, okay, let's all do 20 Kapalabhati breaths together. We'll just count 20. So we might do maybe 3 rounds of 20. We'll do 20, and after 20 we'll relax, take a few full yoga breaths or a few abdominal breaths, and then after a few of those, and we'll go again and do another 20. So often a good rhythm is 3 rounds of 20 for this one, as a sort of just general. But sometimes, if you really want to get intense with it and really build up some fire and get quite cosmic with it, then you might just keep going for 60 all at once, or you might do, you could do 100. But it's all up to what your intention is and how it feels for you. But a good starting point is you try with 20 and maybe 3 rounds of 20. Whereas with the full yoga breath, you wouldn't necessarily count how many you're doing. You'd probably more so count how many minutes you do it. You'd probably do it for, say, a minimum of 2 minutes practice, but up to 5, 6, 7 minutes kind of thing. So maybe an average of 4 or 5 minutes of practicing your full yoga breath. And Ujjayi, again, is something that we bring into our practice, but if we were talking people through it as a pranayama practice, just sitting and counting the 7 in, 7 out. And again, 7's just kind of like a magic number. We've got 7 chakras, and it's a pretty magical number, so it's often a good one to use for the count. And it generally implies a fairly deep breath, but not as deep as, say, 10, which is a deeper breath, counting to 10. But, it depends. Again, if you're working with freshies, new people who don't have much practice, then maybe you could work with a slower count, a shorter number count, which would be a faster count essentially. So a count of 4 or 5. Let's say, in, 2, 3, 4, 5, out, 2, 3, 4, 5. So numbers are relative, and also, I guess, even how fast you go through the numbers is relative as well. So one's 5 could be another's 10, depending on how fast they count. So that's just something that you work out yourself through your own capacity, what is a good count for you. And then, then we have a go.
Can I ask a question? It might feels redundant, but I'm a bit puzzled over it in my own practice. I've I haven't really got a consistent pranayama practice at the moment, but I'm hoping to implement that from today for this inspiration. And for a while I was, years ago, but went on to other things. But I remember, the whole time in my journey, wherever I've stopped in this place, I've concerned myself with the timing, as you said, but coupled with that, the intensity of the breath. So, for example, when I was studying years ago, I had this master telling me that, he could do this Ujjayi breath, and he did it for I would say maybe 2 minutes, but it was probably a very, maybe a very nuanced, small inhalation, or I don't know, again, speculation. But for me, the experiential play where I'm coming in and out of it is interesting, because like just now when we did the laying down full yoga breath was so nice. It's like, oh, where has this been all my life again? And then, you know, when you sit up, it changes, and it then I'm feeling gravity is a thing. And then it becomes more of a, okay, well, the breath, I can't maintain it for that length or that intensity, because when I was on my back, I wasn't having that downward motion of my ribs, giving my diaphragm more to do. So in that moment, I guess, and I am getting to a question, I suppose, like how should I then use that extra force to really, is the aim of the game to really feel it? Is it really like go like, you know, does that make sense? Like if you really want to expand to your absolute, or just kind of let it be more expansive? Does that make sense?
No, really good question. And look, the answer is, well, it's something that's really important to consider, and this is what I mentioned before, maybe when you weren't here, but we all have a different lung capacity, and part of it is due to the exercise of the diaphragm muscle. So the diaphragm muscle is a muscle, and like all muscles, it needs to be exercised. And you know, we know that different muscles become stronger or more effective the more you exercise them. So the diaphragm muscle is exercised through your deep breathing, and look, naturally everyone's muscles look different and have a different capacity anyway. You know, individuality of anatomy, that comes down to that once again. But definitely through practice, we can actually change the shape and the capacity of our muscles in our body. We know that, but through, you know, basic sort of biology. So it's the same with the diaphragm. The diaphragm, it's a muscle, and we can train it to be able to stretch further, to open up more. And so when we do that, we have greater lung capacity. Means we can take in more breath, we can take in more prana, we can breathe a lot slower, a lot deeper. But it takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes usually years before you can really have those deeper, you know, really deep lung capacity. So not something you'll do. Yeah, it's interesting, just with the group that I've been running through in the last month. We've been doing this pranayama practice every morning online, and you know, everyone really found the practice improved their lung capacity, improved their breath work in general, and all the various benefits. But you know, everyone was at a different capacity, and it wasn't. You know, we have this tendency to get very competitive, not just with others, but also with ourselves. You know, we want to, you know, oh, I can do better than that. I can go deeper than that. Oh, come on, I can do it. Yep. And that's just the ego. You know, that's the ego going, you know, oh, I'm better. I can do better. I should do better. I should be better. It's really important to step back from that, because you know, when we push ourselves like anything, you're not going to be as effective in what you're trying to achieve, and you'll end up not enjoying the practice, and then you'll be repelled from the practice if it's not enjoyable. You know, you won't keep doing it. The idea is that we take on this practice because it feels good. It should feel good during and after. And so, you know, there's a fine line. Yeah, there's a little bit of effort, a little bit of a push, but certainly not beyond our limitations where it gets uncomfortable in any way. So that's really important. I mean, that's with all our yoga practices, with our asana, it's the same thing, same approach. We listen to the body, we work to our capacity.
Ahimsa.
Don't push beyond ahimsa, yeah, non-violence. We don't go hardcore. But yeah, with pranayama, it's a big one. It's a really important one. And you know, I can tell you from my experience, I now have years of doing this practice, and as I said, I've found it to be the most transformative, the most beneficial part of the yoga practice. I can't tell you how really amazing this practice is. You know, when we just start, it's kind of like, oh yeah, whatever, we're just breathing, big deal. But the breath is so transformative. You have no idea. Or maybe you have a little bit of an idea now. Now on that, I want to give you one more pranayama, so I'll give you a total of 4 pranayamas today to start working and practicing with. Now this next pranayama is the Nadi Shodhana, the alternate nostril breath, which again some of you are probably familiar with. Now if we came back to that, let's say this image here, when we consider those 3 main energy channels that weave their way around or through the chakras, and the one through the center. So you've got the Pingala Nadi, this blue one, and the Ida Nadi is this kind of orange one. And what they represent is the sun and the moon channels. So these represent the 2 polarities within us. So Ida is the I'm just trying to work out what is it. Ida is the female, the moon, and the Pingala is the sun. Is that right? Yeah. So what we do is we and these 2 channels, they're like these are the 3 main channels. So we've got all the various channels, as we can see here. But then we've got 3 main ones, and they are the central one and the Ida and Pingala. The central one is where all the chakras lie upon. And we'll get into this idea of Kundalini in a later lecture as well. Kundalini is this vital energy which lies dormant in the base chakra. And to activate that, we need the Ida and the Pingala to be in full balance. So essentially your Ida and Pingala, they represent the 2 polarities within you. So your sun and moon energy. And they need to be in full balance for your central channel to be fully activated. And that way all the chakras are more activated as well. So our Nadi Shodhana, the alternate nostril breath, becomes the key for that process. So it's also a really important breath practice within this, within the framework of what we're trying to do as yogis. Now there's all sorts of things that happen really with this one, but the nostrils are the pathway, I mean obviously to draw the prana in through our breath, but also each nostril activates the 2 different polarities. So our left nostril activates the sun channel. Sorry. Left nostril activates the moon channel, right nostril activates the sun channel. So left nostril is Ida and right nostril is Pingala. So left is moon, right is sun. Now, what we always find, if you just try to breathe through your 2 nostrils, most likely one nostril is more dominant than the other right now. And this dominance switches and changes throughout the day. And this is something you could try and verify. Usually every hour and a half, it shifts from one side to the other. So we're more dominant at, one channel than the other at different times of the day. And this switches and changes. Right now, my right nostril is more dominant than my left nostril. My left nostril is a little bit more blocked. So that means my moon channel is a bit more blocked, my sun channel is more clear. Now it's an interesting thing to...
Sorry.
Yeah.
Excuse me, Mickey, sorry to interrupt.
That's right.
Is there a reason why? Is it to do with day and night and things, or
No, it's just
no,
it's
or
just
where you're at, or
I mean, partly where you're at, but also it determines where you're at. So it just shifts. It just shifts. It's just this constant part of the duality, constantly shifting.
Did you say every hour and a half?
On average, every hour and a half, something like that. So, I mean, this is, as I said, verify it if you can. Verify it for yourself. You know, check now. Check the time. What is it? 4:40. Try again at 5:30 or 6 o'clock. See if you're still dominant in the same nostril or if it's changed to the other one. So it's an interesting thing to consider that if one nostril is dominant, to check in with which one, if you're doing a particular task and that task is more yang, because that's also, you can relate to that to yin and yang. So right nostril is sun channel, which is more yang energy. Left nostril is moon channel, which is more yin energy, so more relaxing, calming, creative, flowing, that kind of part of your consciousness, whereas right channel is more kind of active, organizing, strategizing, that kind of part of the consciousness. So, if you, for example, if you were having to do something like your tax returns, something really boring, but you need to to work out all your figures and do all your your sums and everything, you'd want to be in your right channel. You'd want the right channel to be active. You'd want your more kind of active mind to be dominant rather than your creative mind. And if your creative mind was more dominant, then you might say, well, I might do my tax returns later on. Now I might just play some guitar.
Let your accountant be in their creative mind.
Yeah. So it's just an interesting thing to consider, to think about. I might have a dance instead, or do a painting, or listen to some music, or whatever. Do something more creative. Sometimes you've got no choice, but you gotta do what you got to do. And there are pranayama techniques. I won't go into it now, but there are pranayama techniques which help you to shift to the other channel. This one here is designed to balance the two channels, and that's the purpose of trying to ultimately bring them into unison, into balance, because that's what's required for the central channel to be fully activated. For that to be fully activated, the Ida and Pingala need to be in full balance. And so that's just a constant process. So this becomes like a practice that ideally that you do regularly to work towards that overall balance, just to balance out your system all over, all the time, every time type thing. Another thing to consider is that, so it activates those two levels of consciousness in a way, but it also, you think of that, sometimes you can think of that as left brain, right brain as well. So the right channel activates the left brain, and the left nostril activates the right brain. It's kind of like this kind of loop, and so it's also helping to balance out the hemispheres of your brain. And when the two hemispheres of the brain are balanced out, then that also slows the brain waves down. So it brings us into those more Zen states as well. So it also has that relaxing kind of Zen state effect to bring us into a more kind of meditative state. So without further ado, let's have a little practice of Nadi Shodhana to see if we can get into this Zen place. So we use our thumb and our ring finger as the fingers to press gentle pressure over the nostrils. So you breathe in through one, out the other, in that one, and then out the other one. So it's nice to maybe visualize like a loop around the third eye. So you inhale, through the left nostril, you feel it loop around the third eye, then you exhale through the right nostril, inhale through the right nostril, loop around the third eye, we exhale through the left. Now the other two fingers can rest there at the forehead. I mean, you can do what I was doing, that is one technique, it's called the Vishnu Mudra, but otherwise easier generally, you have your pistol fingers on the forehead, your ring and little finger on one nostril and the thumb for the other one, and you just alternate like that, you alternate the breath in and out. Now we use the Ujjayi breath again, use the Ujjayi just very gently, because that helps also to get through the blockages, because sometimes if you're just trying to snort the breath in through a blocked nostril, it just doesn't go in smoothly. So you use your Ujjayi to gently draw the breath in, and that helps to move through even the stubborn blockages. Unless you're really, really clogged up. If you've got a cold or something, then maybe it's just not a technique that we explore when we're really, really clogged up. But if there's a little bit of a blockage, it's usually okay using the Ujjayi. So let's try, let's work a few rounds. Nadi Shodhana it's called. The other tip is we keep the body straight upright. You know, we're working with this energy system. So as soon as you start to slouch, then that disrupts the energy system. We want to keep upright. So the arm also, it's sort of held out in front a little bit without dropping that down too much. And if the arm gets tired, then you just bring the other hand there to support it. Or alternatively, you just switch arms to the other one. Because ideally, again, we like to work this one for maybe, you know, a good 5 or 10 minutes to really get really zen with it. And since we're due to time, it's 10 to 5 now, we'll do a good 5-minute immersion into it. So we'll try and work it for 5 minutes continuously. I'll guide you for the first couple of rounds, and then you do it by yourself. And just try to keep it going. You'll probably feel a little fatigue and want to stop. See if you can push through that fatigue and keep going for a full 5 minutes. I mean, if it gets stressful in any way, don't force it, just stop. But give it a go to really just immerse in it for a good 4 or 5 minutes. And then stop, and then we'll just close the eyes and see how that feels. Okay, so we'll work again to a count of 7. I'll guide you for the first couple of rounds, and then you work on your own for a fair few more rounds and just see how that feels. So shoulders back, spine upright. Bring our hand into position, and then release the current breath. Pressure over the right nostril. And breathing in through the left. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Out the right. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Inhale right. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale left. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Inhale left. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale right. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Inhale right. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale left. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Inhale left. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale right. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Inhale right. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale left. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Inhale left. Now keep working in your own time for another 2 or 3 minutes. You can change the count if you need. Make it even, both the inhale and the exhale. finish the next round with an exhale through your left nostril, so keep going till you finish the round fully, and releasing the technique, keeping the eyes closed, just maintaining the awareness at the third eye, the point between the eyebrows. When you're ready, we'll blink the eyes back open, bringing our awareness back to the zoom. And how do we feel from that one?
Very peaceful.
Good, peaceful, yeah, that's a good one. Peaceful sometimes can be a bit cosmic as well. It can be quite kind of like, a little bit kind of that pranic intoxication feel. Because you're getting very third eye-ish there, you're stimulating the third eye through that kind of work. So that has that more kind of cosmic space. But definitely it helps to create that slows everything right down too. It's calming as well, isn't it?
What do you mean by cosmic space?
What do I mean by cosmic? I guess that kind of like I was saying, that pranic intoxication, getting a little high, a little cosmic in the sense that, you're feeling kind of elated, a bit ecstatic, without any, without sort of any negative connotations of sometimes you talk about people getting high from drugs. That there can be a negative connotation to that in the sense that the drugs can do damage or whatever. This is not. There's no damage being done. It's
happiness as well.
Yeah.
Felt peace and happy.
Beautiful. Oh, wonderful. Well, look, your homework for this week is to actually practice that, add that to your little morning practice with your meditation. Try and do, say, at least 10 to 15 minutes of pranayama practice. So if you can, ideally a good 20 minutes or more altogether with pranayama and meditation. So I like to use pranayama before meditation, but it can be the other way around. You can do your meditation first and then your pranayama. And then I would like you to practice teaching, maybe just in the videos, if you can load up you teaching 2 of those. Let's just say 2, don't worry about 3. So we did 4. We did full yoga breathing, Dirga Pranayama. We did Ujjayi breathing. We did Kapalabhati breathing, and we did Nadi Shodhana, alternate nostril breathing. So I want you to try and teach 2 of those as a video that you upload to the group. And then next week when we meet up again, we'll start our session with a pranayama session, and we'll get you all to teach one of the pranayamas that you didn't upload on your video. So basically, by this time next week, you will have taught 3 pranayamas. Sound good?
some really weird feedback. I don't know if that's just from my end.
Yeah, maybe it's the rain. It started pissing down rain here.
Yeah.
So,
I think it's the rain. It's really loud.
yeah, it's really just suddenly like massive.
Yeah.
Where you are too? Or was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
St
Okay.
Kilda. Yeah.
All over, except for where Annie is, because she's in Brisbane.
Well, it was actually pissing down here yesterday, so you got it now. It was so nice. I was hanging out my window going, I like Brisbane wet. It reminds me of Melbourne. I had like a little moment.
No, we're in the full rain mode at the moment. Like it's been raining for a few days already, and it's going to rain all of next week. Like it's like just the weather predictions non-stop rain for a while. So it's interesting. Well, thank you all for your presence again. Lovely to see you all. And next week we'll explore the 8 limbs of yoga. So we'll kind of, we already know a couple of them now, but we're going to look a bit deeper into the others and just get a better idea of how it all works. But yeah. I look forward to seeing you guys next week, and any
Thank you.
questions along the way during the week, feel free to ask.
Thank you.
Much love.
Bye.
Thank you.